I mostly had questions about subsequent lawsuits, what people are going to do about that going forward. All right. One of the things I want to say is that I can't necessarily disclose exactly what's going to happen. Okay. One of the things I will tell you is that the law offices of John Burris, which is my boss, John Burris, will not be representing any of the families of the victims. The reason why, and we want to put that out front, is because it looks like there may be a conflict of interest that we would have to deal with. So therefore, we are going to advise the victims to retain Wortham Briscoe. Wortham Briscoe is an attorney actually that I oppose in another case, and Mr. Briscoe works for the law offices of Andrew Wolf in Oakland. All right, we've had a discussion with Mr. Briscoe. He hasn't stated that he is for sure going to represent any of the families or the victims, but again, we're in that kind of gray area right now where I can't give you a lot of detail other than there are discussions going on with Mr. Briscoe. We don't know for sure if any of the families are going to retain Mr. Briscoe, but that is going to be one of our first suggestions. Okay. And then in the meantime, I guess we can take a few questions.
Are there grounds for a lawsuit or something that you would move forward with? What do you see here that would warrant a lawsuit?
Again, we have attorney-client privilege issues right now that I can't necessarily. I don't want to give up at this point. In general terms, remember, you got to remember that I represent Urojas. I was representing him in the eviction action. Okay, that's where I came on. That was my whole purpose. There's a potential that the eviction action could continue. For instance, Keith Kim had filed a 30-day notice to quit that I spoke with his attorney about 2 Fridays ago, or I guess last Friday, whenever it was. And for instance, Keith Kim could demand that they continue to pay money. That's part of the law. He could say under a commercial lease, you have to continue paying me even though the building is burned down. Of course, I would fight that. So that's one potential lawsuit. Yeah, there could be potential lawsuits by some of the victims, by some of the families of the victims, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know who's going to sue who, but I could just talk about it in general terms.
Hello. Are you making an assertion that it was arson, and what is the process in doing that at this point?
What I said last week, I said that it should be investigated as a possible arson. I want to clear up. I never made an assertion that it was arson. In fact, I heard some reports that they said something about a candle. A candle may have started it. No, I'll take the fire department's word for it. And by the way, I don't think Dr. Lowry or Dr. Lewis had a chance to thank the Oakland Fire Department and the police department for at least not letting the building completely burn down to the ground. It's still in a condition where it could be fixed. But I'll take the Oakland Fire Department's word for it. I do think that even if you have a burning candle that starts something on fire, if some of the issues were fixed that we were in dispute about, maybe the devastation wouldn't have been so bad. Maybe, it would have just, it wouldn't have been so bad as it is now where we had 4 people die.
So isn't that a case for a criminal negligence?
And how many clients? I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around who the master tenants are, etc. So how many units does Urojas control, and how many clients were paying rent?
I'm going to let Dr. Lowry answer that.
Urojas had the second floor, which had about 37, and an additional 14 on the first floor, in which we were just beginning to kind of ease into the first floor. So together we had approximately between 41 and 44 when I checked the roster that were Urojas residents. But there were much more people in the building.
Were there other nonprofits collecting rent on the 3rd floor and the 1st floor, or?
Again, that's one of those questions that right now we can't answer because possible pending legal battles.
Can you say why they were in the process of being evicted?
Yeah, one of the reasons that was stated in the lawsuit, or I'm sorry, in the original notice, is that they had failed to pay rent. They had back rent. However, you know, the fact is that Urojas had actually attempted to pay rent. They had receipts. They had proof that was the case. Again, like I said before, like I was saying last week, when Urojas, they came to me shortly after the ghost ship fire, about a week after the ghost ship fire. Okay, and what they'd said, there was a couple things going on. Number one, the owner had employed some people to use self-help. Self-help is the equivalent of using physical force to evict people. Okay, they'd thrown some of their items out on the street. They were locking doors, that type of thing. They also served them with what's called a 3-day notice to quit. A 3-day notice to quit is a way that you start the eviction process. I looked at the 3-day notice to quit. There was an attorney's name on the top of it. I called the attorney, asked her if she's indeed representing Keith Kim, and she said, no, I'm not representing Keith Kim. He hasn't retained me, right? And so we had a subsequent meeting with Keith Kim. I confronted him about the 3-day notice to quit, and he said, let's move on, let's move past that. Let's try to work this out. Let's try to make a deal. That's when we brought in Miss Shakina, who worked with our group, and we started the mediation process. Fast forward, we had, you know, we went through a number of meetings. We had a meeting with McElhaney at City Hall. That didn't work out. A number of things. Fast forward about a week later, there's a couple things that happened concurrently. They received a $16,000 PG&E bill. So all that we all that we could conclude is that someone from the third floor was boosting electricity. We did not have access to the third floor. The second thing that happened was we called over the city of Oakland to inspect. Okay, and that was one of the times I think that Miss Shakina went over there with Dr. Lewis. Okay, we called them over to inspect. The city of Oakland didn't find anything wrong. That baffled me because when I went in there, and like I said, my staff, different occasions, you know, we saw conditions that needed repairs, exposed wires, any other thing that you can think of.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the city verified that violation.
Exactly.
So they did find things were wrong.
Well, they didn't find it during that particular inspection because we wanted to use inspectors' notes in order to gain leverage in our negotiating position. So when that happened, you know, we felt as though we didn't. We found out later, after the fire started, that there was some violations found. So real quick, I'll just say a couple more things. The next thing, they were served with a 30-day notice to quit under commercial lease. My understanding is that there's other leases in existence. Those leases were also residential leases. They were actually running this place as a residential situation. So when I spoke to Keith Kim's attorney on last Friday, we kind of left it at, well, he's going to pursue the eviction. You know, of course, we fight it. My strategy would be to make Keith Kim's attorney evict everybody one by one. Next thing, wake up Monday morning to go jogging, put on my headphones, Urojas is burning.
Isn't there a case for criminal negligence, even if it wasn't direct arson?
Okay, I'm sorry to be vague, but again, there has to be more investigation. I can't say that. Criminal negligence is something that the district attorney would have to bring.
Is that happening now? Is that in the
I
works?
would have no idea. Remember, I'm a civil attorney, so I'm not the attorney that pursues charges against people in criminal court.
So we don't know that that's happening right now?
We don't know that that's happening right now.
Okay.
Has Urojas retained a criminal attorney?
There's been no reason why Urojas would need to retain a criminal attorney.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out you Urojas and who you are, and having trouble finding documentation online. Your source of revenue, where do you get most of your money to keep the lights on, to pay your bills?
We have been fighting for that for the 22 years of its existence, even though we've been doing the work 28 to 29 years. We didn't become a 501c3 until like 05 or something. But we have been helping the community separate from the church and trying to just continue to do the work with whatever people came with. We meet people where they are, and that's where the work begins. We take nothing and make something out of it. So